Hello, Packer fans, wherever you may be. It's time for another edition of the Pack Attack Cast. We're coming at you from our mobile studio on the road here in Green Bay. Yes, we were at practice today. Very excited to see the players out there, see the enthusiasm of the crowd, see our players in action after that Eagles loss far too many months ago, but we're now back in business. And as the banner said at Ray Nitschke Field today, it all starts here. And I think that's a great message that the team is giving to both the fans and the players as they start training camp. Very excited to be here giving you the information straight from training camp. Please give us a like and subscribe. We're trying to get to 5,000 subs before the start of the season. We can get there if you hit that subscribe button if you have not done so already. First of all, before the practice, we had a press conference from Brian Gutekunst, and we got the following important information at the press conference. First of all, Elton Jenkins is not holding in, as I and many people suspected. Although he did not practice today, he actually has a back injury. Brian Gutekunst did say that once Elton Jenkins' back injury is healed, he will be in practice. So there is no holdout situation. There is no hold-in situation. Now, I do think the Green Bay Packers will give Elton some sort of a concession on his contract. I expect that will happen this week, probably before he actually takes any snaps. I think it'll be something along the lines of they'll give him some incentives if he makes the Pro Bowl at center, or perhaps something tied to the team's success. Some small bonuses just to give him some sort of feeling that they are accommodating the fact that he is changing positions. So we'll have to see how that will shape up over the next couple days. It would not surprise me if there's a minor tweak to his contract before he actually sees the field. But it is great to see. He was out there on the field. He was not participating, but he was spending time with the other offensive linemen throughout practice. He seemed to be in good spirits, and he was coaching up his fellow offensive linemen as much as he could without actually taking any snaps. So very excited to see him out on the field. And it sounds like it was much to do about nothing, and he is going to be on the practice field as soon as his back feels better. Number two, and this is really exciting news, Melton in the past was splitting time between the offense and defense. He's going to spend most of his time in training camp at cornerback. He's changed his jersey number to number 16. So Brian Gutekunst says they're fully converting him over to this prospect of being a cornerback. I think there's a very good chance he would be the fourth or fifth corner. Keep in mind, Melton has experience playing corner. This isn't something where they just threw him out there willy-nilly. They just said, let's just try you at corner. He has past experience as a corner, and he should be very successful. He looked like he was a natural in that role from the snaps that I saw. It looks like he was very comfortable in that role as cornerback. So it's very interesting to see him make this change early. I initially thought they would keep him as a wide receiver / corner, but I think this does make a lot of sense for the team and for Bo, because he can actually focus on his most likely opportunity to be a contributor to this team, which would be at cornerback. He still has the ability to play wide receiver if they have a need to add some bodies there in the event of injury. He's also a key special teamer, so it makes a lot of sense for them to get him as many snaps as possible at the corner position. So I'm very excited about that. Brian Gutekunst also mentioned that they still want to extend Quay Walker, despite turning down his fifth-year option. So they're still in conversations with Quay Walker and his agent to see if they can come up with something on that front. I do expect Quay Walker to get an extension. It might be something in the lines of maybe 2 years. The Packers historically like to look at doing longer extensions, 4 years or more, as we just saw with Zach Tom. But with Quay Walker, it probably makes sense to do a 2-year extension at slightly more than he's being paid right now, to give Quay Walker some security and give the Packers 2 years to see what he can put on the field over the next 2 years. That would also give the team the option, if it didn't work out, to jettison him after 2 years, obviously. So look for an extension with maybe a relatively high signing bonus, as we saw with Zach Tom, as they try to give themselves maximum flexibility with the player. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there from a contract standpoint. We also finally found out why Quay Walker was not participating in minicamp and OTAs. Apparently had ankle surgery. He is expected to be fully recovered from the ankle surgery and back to practice next week. So that gives him plenty of time to knock off the rust before the preseason. So I'm very excited to hear that Quay Walker, we finally have information on what's going on with Quay Walker. So I think it's a combination of they're trying to look at the contract, plus Quay Walker is not 100% after the ankle surgery. So it makes a lot of sense for them to give him a couple days of rest while he fully recovers, and he'll be back onto the field apparently next week, which is great to see today. The Packers, who are non-participants in today in practice, were Amir Johnson, Christian Watson with his knee injury, as we know, offensive lineman Elton Jenkins with his back injury, offensive lineman John Williams with a back injury. We finally understand what's happening with John Williams there. We've been looking for information on what his injury could be, and now apparently it looks like it was a back injury. Defensive end Colin Oliver was out with a hamstring injury. Again, finally we get some clarification on what's going on with Colin Oliver, and we know that Quay Walker was out with the ankle. On a personal note, watching from the stands, I was actually very close to Christian Watson as he was working on a sprint machine on the sidelines, and he looked very good. He wasn't at full speed, of course, but what they appeared to be working on with the sprint machine, which is basically a long cable that's attached to a bunch of weights, and that gives him resistance while he works on getting up to speed quickly along the sideline. So he was working at about, I would say he was working at about a half speed, but he looked in good spirits. He looked excited to be out there on the field. And I think it was very exciting to see him on the practice field actually doing some sprint machine work, which really leads me to believe that by mid-October, he will be back at least on a limited basis. He might not be full blow by mid-October, but if they could sprinkle him in mid-October, that means he'll be at full speed as we get down to the playoff chase. So I'm very excited about that. Let's look at the offensive notes that we had from the practice. Now, it's important to note that there's a lot of things going on in the practice. Anybody that's gone to a Green Bay Packers practice knows there's activity all across the field as they try to get as much done in an hour and a half as they can. So these are my news and notes that I picked up as I was trying to watch everything that was going on in the practice field. I did also look at some news and notes from some other reporters that were on the field just to make sure I had a good depth of what was going on at the practice. So first of all, let's look at the offensive line going into practice. The starting offensive line was Walker, Aaron Banks, Sean Ryan, and Morgan at guard, and Zach Tom. So I did see with the number ones, most of the time, Sean Ryan was basically coming in as the de facto backup center, and Morgan was coming in at guard. I do really want to point out that Sean Ryan looked like he was very aggressive and very active, whether he was playing at center or guard. He looks like he's in great shape right now, and he's going to be very competitive wherever he is. So I'm very excited that Sean Ryan looked very good snapping the ball to all of the quarterbacks today that he was working with. He looked very comfortable in that role. Didn't see any hiccups with the exchange, even with Sean Ryan playing center. Jordan Love looked to be in command of the offense, and he had a very live arm. I was very enthusiastic to see that he had more mobility in that practice than I saw in all of 2024. The offense had him moving around the pocket with plenty of play action in the script. He was moving around actively. He was very fluid in his motion. He looked 100% healthy, and it was good to see a lot of play action, which is something that we did not see much of in 2024 due to his injury. So that's a really good sign. I'm very excited about them working more and more movement into Jordan Love. If they can get him into bootlegs, get him into play action, get him mobile in the pocket, that is very good news for the Green Bay Packers, and it really increases the options that Coach Matt LaFleur has with making his play calls. He can play call everything that he sees on his sheet with Jordan Love fully healthy. It was a very competitive practice for offense. The offense looked like it was firing on all cylinders for the most part. Malik Willis had a great Matthew Golden touchdown, and Golden worked with both the first and the second team offenses in practice today. One thing I was able to see, one of the benefits of watching from the fans, not only getting in touch with the fans, feeling out the fans about what they think about the season, is I was fortunate enough, in addition to watching Christian Watson, I was able to see the offensive line extensively during their position drills, and they looked very energetic and they were working very hard. Zach Tom in particular got a lot of ovations after he signed his new deal, and he threw up a thumbs up and was all smiles to the crowd. Again, Sean Ryan was also working very hard at both guard and center. Let's look at our defensive notes. The Packers chose to deploy Nixon and Hobbs mostly on the outside, with Billard playing slot and McKinney and Williams playing safety for the most part today. They've switched it up pretty consistently, so we'll have to see what happens throughout the course of training camp. But there was a whole lot of Nixon and Hobbs on the outside, and Bullard was playing the slot, especially on early downs. Valentine did come in, and when Valentine did come in, I saw consistently Hobbs was going into the slot on third downs, which is what I expected would happen when we get into the regular season. I think we're going to have Hobbs and Nixon out there on the outside corners, and in the nickel, I think we're going to see Hobbs kicked inside. I think it's also important to mention that Nixon was the first player on the field today. He was out there stretching well before the rest of his teammates came out there. I think that was definitely an intentional act by him to show that he is a leader, and he's focusing on making a good representation of what it is to be a Green Bay Packer, out there early, working hard. So I was very excited to see Nixon out there early, and I just wanted to point that out. The defensive highlight of the day definitely was that McKinney got an interception on a Love to Wicks attempt in the end zone. It was a very competitive situation. Jordan Love was throwing to the right end zone. and McKinney came over, and it was a jump ball interception, but it was a very close play. Wicks was right there as well. It really could have gone either way, but it was exciting to see McKinney continue to show his interceptions abilities. I'm not too worried about seeing Jordan Love throw a interception in practice. It was a very contested play, and far better that he learned some lessons in practice than have those mistakes in a game. And let's face it, he's not going to be facing a secondary that includes a ball hawk like McKinney each and every week. So overall, Jordan Love looked very comfortable in the pocket. The offensive line was looking very smooth, even without Elton Jenkins out there. The wide receivers were making plays all across the field, and you could just feel there was a palpable energy from the team. They looked very matter of fact. They looked very all business. I saw a lot of hugs between players, lots of high fives. When McKinney made that interception, the whole defense rallied around him and gave him a salute. So that was very exciting to see. That the chemistry and the teamwork that you get from having 19 of 22 starters should not be underestimated here. So I'm very excited about continuing to bring you future reports from training camp, so please give us a subscribe. Hopefully we'll be back in practice tomorrow. It started pouring rain just about 3 hours after practice today, and there is rain and lightning in the forecast for tomorrow about the time the Packers would normally practice. So I of course will be there. It'll just be a question of whether there will be a practice outside or in Don Hudson Center. If that's the case, then the general public will not be able to watch that. But I'll of course get you some news and notes from the reporters that are able to watch the practice indoors. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Pack Attack Cast. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll be back for practice hopefully on Thursday. We'll be back for practice on Friday, and we'll be giving you news and notes from the owners meeting on Friday as well. So very excited to continue to give you everything you need for your Packer obsessions. Give us a subscribe and a follow, and as always, go Pack Go. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, if practice does not get rained out. Talk to you next time.